Alright, well it is way too cold outside to be doing any shop DIYs like normal, so today I'm going to do an indoor one, and that way I can stay warm. So I'm going to remake some of these rice bags right here. Now this is a blue jean rice bag. What I'm going to do is repurpose some of my old blue jeans that I've worn out in the shop out there working, because there's a lot of material left and we can make these out of these. So rice bag's pretty cool. You just throw it in the microwave for about a minute, no more than that, because thing will probably get too hot. But put it in there for about a minute, then you got something to warm your neck up when you're cold. So let's get set up. We got an embroider up here. I'm going to do some embroidering too for them and put people's names on them, as well as the regular old sewing machine that should be able to handle this blue jean material, and we're going to check and see. So let's get set up here and we'll show how to cut the pattern out, which is super simple, then sew this thing up, and away we'll go for a nice repurpose for some blue jean material. Alright, so what do we need for a pattern? Well, the pattern is super simple. It's just a big rectangle. All you gotta do is sew the thing. And if you're not familiar with sewing machines, it's just a machine to me. And so I actually enjoy playing with these things because it's just fascinating how they can sew. But if you don't know how to use a sewing machine and you got a sewing machine, well, you can find a little old granny somewhere, because grannies all know how to use sewing machines and they can show you how to use it. Then you can do some cool stuff, sewing some things or whatever. Or you might just want to send us off to one of your friends or something, and maybe they can make you a rice bag. But anyway, the pattern is pretty simple. All I did is just cut out, this is like a 12 pack of Coca-Colas or Squirt right here. Just get a 12 pack. You're going to use 2 sections, because if you can see, for the one that I made, it's about as big as that. It doesn't really matter the size, but you want to get it big enough to wrap around your neck. So that works out good for that size. We're going to cut the little ends off right here, so we're just going to use that part for our pattern. And I'm going to make some little ones too, because I got some little relatives that might want a little rice bag. So let's get our material cut and we'll lay it out open. What we're going to do is use the usable parts. So right down here below the knees, I ought to be able to make 1 out of that, 2 out of that maybe, up higher up here. So let's get the blue jean material cut up to where it is decent sized. Then we'll come back, cut our pattern, we'll sew this thing up real quick. You'll see how easy it is just to make a simple rice bag. Alright, so with all of our material cut up that's usable, we got quite a few pieces here, so we're going to make several of them while we're set up. But what we want to do is try to line up this seam somewhere on it, about halfway. That way it's on the back side and there's no seam on the inside, so you can put it on your neck. So I just cut 2 notches out so I can kind of see where center is. And like I say, it doesn't have to be exact, doesn't even have to be this size, but you want to get a general idea of where to cut your rectangle on the inside of the material. This is the inside, so I don't care if I mark on it, because it's going to be folded up with the rice. So there we go. So we got our outline more or less. Now we just got to cut a bunch of these little guys out, and then we'll be ready to put them on the embroider, because I want to embroider them before I sew them together. So let's get set up, cut all these guys out, and then we'll be ready to set up and do some embroidering. Alright, so we got all of our little squares cut out to make our rice bags, and I got the Janome here set up and ready to go. Well, it's not quite set up, I got to put thread in it, but it's a pretty cool old machine. It does a good job. You can import pictures into it from your computer, do some things. Even as old as it is, it works good. But one of the best settings that it has as far as making really good print is the monogram setting, and you can upload monograms onto it, but it doesn't just have to be 3 characters. You can upload like names and things in the monogram, and it'll emboss those as well, or embroider those as well. So we're going to get set up here, and we're going to lay out where we want to put our embroidery. So all I'm going to do is take a piece of tape, because I know it's going to be about that big. I've already done some setup, and I want to get it about, I don't know, right there, because we're going to put 2 lines. We're going to have 1 line that's going to be the person, and then another line is going to be some directions. So there we are with where we're going to do our embroider. So now all we got to do is put a backer on it, stick it in this thing right here, and then we're going to be good to go. So we know about right there is our tape, right? So we just got to get a piece of backer sheet, this fluffy stuff right here, and we want to get it about somewhere around in the center. So it's right about there. We're going to put it right about there. That way we can have something for the machine to have a background. So I just got some of this light spray stuff. It's like sticky spray. Don't spray a bunch or it'll get on your needle. So we spray that stuff on there. Then we just flip it over and we stick it on. Not so critical where it ends up. You just want to get it stuck on there. Alright, and we are embroidering on the front of the material. So, get some of the strings out of the way. So now all we got to do is get it somewhere inside of this thing, because we can adjust where it is on the machine. So we just put this guy behind it and get it somewhere in the frame. And we want to get it kind of straight because it can't do angles very well, so you want to have it straight to the frame as good as possible. Now we're not doing rocket science here, we're just making rice bags, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but we want to get it pretty close. So then all you do is just make sure that thing is down in there good and tight, and we just tighten it up a little bit on the back here. And we are ready to load that guy into our embroidery machine. So, all we got to do is pull some strings back. I'm going to go ahead and load it. Get it in there. And we just hook it up back here. Now, I can't hook it up yet because it's in sewing machine mode. So, I got to switch it over here to embroidery mode. So, let me move the camera up here so we can see a little bit more about this embroidery. Alright, so before we hook this thing up, we gotta put it over here into embroidery mode. And what that does is moves this little thing over here in position so we can hook our deck up. And we're just touching on the back there, so it's right in the corner. So now, all we gotta do is put in our, what we want to print. So, we go over here, and I got it on a card. There's a little card that you can load up into the computer. And so we pick our print that we want to print. Now it's going to go over there and it's going to try to do it in the center, but I want to be a little bit off center. And so what I want to do is trace this thing. So what we want to do is hit the trace button and it'll run around and it'll tell you where it's going to do its embroidery. So we got to move it that way a little bit to get it to hit where we want to be. So all we do is just push it a little bit to the center, and now we hit trace and see if it'll run around. Pretty much run around our little thing right there. So now we can take our tape off because we don't want to be embroidering across our tape. And we're all set up. So now all we got to do is put some thread in this bad boy. So let's get this thing threaded up and we'll be ready to embroider. So all we got to do right there is get this guy over here, and I'm going to let it hit, make a couple of hits, and then I'm going to catch this thread so it doesn't get tangled up in the embroidery. And so we are good to go. We got everything loaded up. We just hit the magic go button. And then I'm going to pause it for a second and try to get this out of there. Because what it does is it tries to suck it around when you're embroidering. And so what all I want to do is just grab that one, get it out from under there. Then we let it take back off. So it's just going to sit there and embroider, and it's going to make our little embroidery for the thing, and then we'll do another setup, we'll do the other embroider, and then we'll be good to go to set this thing up on the old sewing machine, and we'll sew us a rice bag. So we'll watch this guy run right here, and I'll do it in high speed so you can see it go, but it's pretty cool. And there we go. So about 8 minutes later, our little embroider has done its job. So let me pick the foot up. We'll take it out of there and show you what it did. And there we go. So you can see Steve's DIYs. Looks awfully nice, and it's, like I say, the monogram setting does a good job on this. So I just got to trim all my little strings up, and I'm good to go. So now we'll take all the other ones that we have, all of our material here, and we're going to monogram them with the names instead of a monogram. And then we'll be ready to set up on the other machine, and we can start sewing. Alright, so with the embroidering out of the way, and that looks really good, now we got to switch over to one of these hand-me-down sewing machines somebody gave us that sits downstairs. It's a good machine, it's a Kenmore. But I'm too lazy to swap out my thread on the embroiderer over there, so we're just going to use this machine. So what we want to do is just put a pretty edge on there, so I'm just going to spray some more of this sticky stuff right on these edges, and I'm going to fold this in so I can sew that edge on the outside. Now I'm lazy, and so this is an easy way to do it. So we're going to glue that down and glue the other side down. And now we can run it through the machine. We're going to sew these sides, and then we're going to flip it inside out, and we're going to sew it, and then we'll just sew up one end. We can fill it up with rice. So let's get set up here on this machine and sew these little guys down. And it's got our two ends with a nice little edge on it. So now all we got to do is flip it to the inside, and we're going to sew it inside out right down that side right there. Then we'll turn it inside out and sew the ends closed. So now all we got to do is just line everything up. So now we're ready to turn her inside out, and we should have us kind of a really skinny blue jean leg here. And there we go. So now we got it sewed into a sock shape. You can see our little seam right down through there. So not perfect, but it's a rice bag. So what do you do, right? So now all we got to do is sew this thing together right here on this one, and then we'll leave one of them open. We'll fill it up with rice, and then we'll close it up. So let's get this one sewed. We'll just put a thread across there, and like I say, it's nice if you can get it to line up so that the seams don't overlap. That way you're not trying to go through so much material at one time. This center part's going to be hard. I don't know if this sewing machine can do it, but we'll give it a try here, and we'll just see. So now we got her sewed up tight right here on the end. Now we just got to go get us some rice, and we can fill this thing up and sew the other end, and we'll have us a rice bag. Alright, so armed with some long grain jasmine rice, all we got to do is fill this guy up about, I don't know, 3/4 full, somewhere up in here. And there we go. So now, with it about that full, we're just going to take it over here and we're going to sew it closed, and we will officially have us a rice bag. And hopefully that sealed it up on both ends. So now you got you a nice little rice bag. So we just take him over to the microwave. We'll pop him in there for 1 minute max, and then we'll see how nice and warm he gets. Alright, so in the microwave it goes for 1 minute. And we'll let him warm up. Then we will check his temperature with a non-contact temperature probe. And there we go. So our rice bag is heated up. So now let's see what we got for temperature. We're around about 100 degrees, somewhere around there on the outside. So not so hot that it'll burn you, but it's nice and warm from that rice. So you can see about 119, somewhere around in there, which is 49 Celsius for those Celsius readers. And you're good to go. So there you go. That's how you make you a nice little rice bag to heat up your neck on these cold winter days. Well, alrighty. Thanks for watching.